and indirect costs. I'm working on the short questions 16-3 out of chapter 16. I have the textbook pulled up on top, and then the working paper template Excel file from your course down below, which is where I'll be working the answers. And so these working paper template files aren't required for you to use. It just kind of provides us with a base to start the problems from the back of the chapter. So if you want to use this as a reference, you're more than welcome to. So our problem says Granger Cards is a manufacturer of greeting cards. Classify its cost by matching the costs to the terms. And so they're giving us the terms direct materials, direct labor, indirect materials, indirect labor, and other manufacturing overhead. And so just remember that these direct materials and labor would be things that we can easily and cost effectively tie back to the product itself, whereas the indirect wouldn't be as obvious or feasible for us to measure back to the product, but it's still a product cost. So it's still required to get that product completed and ready, but it's not directly tied to one single product. And then, of course, the other manufacturing overhead is going to be all the things that don't fall into indirect materials and indirect labor. So we have artist wages. And so that's obviously labor because we're talking about the artist that's doing the work. And it's direct because we can easily tie wages to the product that is being completed. So for A, we'll put direct labor. Wages of materials warehouse workers. And so again, that's going to be labor. It's a question of direct or indirect, and it is indirect because the materials warehouse workers might not be, well, they're not working on a particular product at one time or a particular card at one time, but they're necessary to get the job done. So it's indirect labor. The paper, and that's a material, and it is direct. We can tie the cost of paper back to the specific cards that were produced. So that's direct materials. Depreciation on the manufacturing equipment, and that's going to fall, it's not labor, it's not materials, and that's going to fall into our other manufacturing overhead. Manufacturing plant manager's salary. So this is labor again, but the plant manager isn't working on one particular card at a time where we could tie that cost of that person's wage to the particular cards. Instead, they're overseeing maybe all of the artists, and so their day might be spent more with a new artist than a different artist. So instead of us trying to break that down into how much of their salary belongs to artist A's product versus artist B's product, we will call that indirect labor and then distribute it amongst all the products. So manufacturing plant manager salary, indirect labor. Property taxes on the manufacturing plant. Again, it's not materials and it's not labor, so it's going to be this other manufacturing overhead. And then finally, glue for the envelopes. And so that is a material. However, it's going to be an indirect material rather than a direct material, because could we identify the cost of the glue for every specific envelope? Yes, we could, but it's probably not cost effective for us to do that, to take the time to measure out exactly how much glue was put on each envelope, as opposed to labeling it as an indirect material and then just distributing that cost amongst the products. So this is going to be an indirect material. And that's it for this problem.